Welcome back, y'all, and happy Wednesday. Today, we'll talk about Tennessee's official visitors from the 2026 class. We'll talk about how Tennessee's doing as far as filling those needs for the class. And as we're going through, I'll tell you the players that I feel like Tennessee really needs to close out on. As always, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, y'all, we're going to start with quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. So starting off with quarterbacks, you can see how many I think Tennessee needs in this class. Next to that, you'll see how many are already committed in this class. If the name is highlighted in orange, it means that they are committed. And next to that, you will see their OV date. And then next to that, the star rating, that's their highest star rating out of all the sites. So Tennessee's perfectly fine at quarterback. We all know that. We can move on to running back. I think that Tennessee needs one. We don't have any already committed in this class. And I love Savion Hitter, who's going to be visiting on June the 20th. I also love Jonas Walton, who's also going to be visiting on the 20th. If I had my rathers, I would definitely take Savion Hitter, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, just to do it all back. He can catch the football coming out of the backfield. He's going to look good in pass pro. He's just a football player. He's a dog. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, that's a big boy battle. Next, tight end. So Carson Snead, who is obviously already committed in this class, but he has been taking visits. I don't think Tennessee really needs to add any more tight ends, just because we're only going to be losing Miles Kitselman, but possibly Ethan Davis. Now, if we lose Ethan Davis, you might want to go out and add two. But since Carson Snead's been taking the visits, I don't know. Maybe he is seriously considering going somewhere else. But I just think personally that he's a lifelong Vol fan. He's an in-state kid. He's probably going to end up at Tennessee. But we can't back off of talking to him, making him feel loved, and all those types of things. But he's going to be really good. He's got good size and all those types of things. So I love what I'm seeing there. Wide receivers, I think Tennessee needs three. We already have two in this class. Love both of those guys. We have kind of like an outside presence and more of, with King. He's an inside-outside guy, but probably going to be more of a slot. So I think we need to add one more outside guy and maybe a player that's a little bit more versatile that can really do both. So number one, I'm going to say Joel Wyatt, who you don't see on this list. I would love to add him to this class. I mean, he's an in-state guy, 6'4", 190 pounds, plays wide receiver and linebacker, just like Bruce. So he's got that type of dog to him. He can high point footballs, really long arms. He has good straight line speed, just tough, physical. So I would love to be able to add him. Hopefully, we'll get him up on an OV. I'm sure that will happen coming up here pretty soon. Outside of that, I really like Corey Barber because for me, he's kind of like that really versatile inside-outside guy. 6 feet, like 185 pounds, or I think he's 6'1", 185 pounds. He's showing me a lot of really nice things. He's an NFL wide receiver, 100%. So, he's a guy that's rated as a 4-star, really probably should be a 5-star. But Tennessee's going to be fine. I mean, obviously, losing Tristan Keys, that hurts. But like I always say, y'all, I mean, LSU, they're getting all these really good players for the 2026 class. If it's not an in-state guy, then a lot of those players might leave. I'm just telling you because Brian Kelly can't coach his way out of a paper bag. He's probably going to be gone. So once that happens, we can get him right back inside of that transfer portal. So that's not a huge deal from my perspective. All right, now let's talk about these linebackers. I think Tennessee only needs one in the 2026 class. It doesn't mean that we can't add more. Okay, like this stuff is not set in stone. A need is just a need, but you can always add more, especially if you have room. And if there's a lot of really good players that want to come in, Tennessee will find the room. Trust me whenever I tell you that. So Arion Carter is probably the only player that's going to go pro for my linebackers next season, but Jeremiah Telander could too. If he has a really good year, he could go pro. I think that Ben Bolton, who's looked really good throughout spring, doesn't really mean a whole lot, but he looks really good. So if he has a really big year, he could also turn pro, and that would definitely lessen the numbers that we have. But at the same time, there's so much youth, really good talent that Tennessee has inside of that room. So that's why I kind of, said we only really need one. But looking at all the other visitors that Tennessee has coming up, I love all these guys. They can all play. They can all run fast, hit hard. That's what Coach Inge looks for. But the picture is of Tyler Atkinson. None of the players are quite like Tyler Atkinson. I don't know if I haven't seen a linebacker like him in a long time. He's kind of like a Roquan Smith, which is why I always say you don't want him going to UGA. So that's the biggest thing here. Don't let him go to Georgia. And look at him inside of that orange. I mean, he looks good in that orange and white, but 6'2", about 215 pounds, literally can do it all. He can cover. I mean, he runs really fast, sideline to sideline. He can play Mike. He can play Will. He can actually be like an edge rusher, does a great job with his blitzing. He can spot quarterbacks. He has good hands. I mean, he is a just incredible athlete. He's probably going to play somewhere around 6'3", 235, and be like a 4'4", 40 guy. He's going to kill the NFL coming. I mean, he is a surefire, can't miss first-round draft pick. So I would love it if Tennessee can get him up on an OV. I know that he likes Tennessee, but I think that he's leaning towards some other schools at this point. This is a guy, just like a Nico, just like a Faison. You pull out all the stops for him, just like a Champ Manzupi and I have talked about. There's actually going to be up on campus at the end of this month for an unofficial visit. So it's just good to know that the staff likes him as much as P and I do. But it's like that. It's like can't miss players. So whatever Tennessee has to do, especially if he's showing, some type of mutual interest, you pull out all the stops to go out and get a Tyler Atkinson. Now let's talk about defensive tackles and the players that I think will end up playing strong side defensive end for Tennessee. So looking at the tackles, I think the Tennessee needs to. We'll probably add more. You can see we don't have any at this point, but I like all these guys. I mean, obviously, whatever Coach G wants to do, he knows his stuff. So I 100% trust him. He's going to bring up some really good ones. You can never have too many tackles for sure. I mean, we could probably add 4 or 5. You know what I'm saying? I think everybody could probably add 4 or 5, but really, really good class, I think, for these tackles. They've got good size already. That's the biggest thing. You want guys with the size that can come in and play early. At least that's what I think Tennessee would want. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as strong side ends, obviously, Tyson Bacon, really good player. His stock is skyrocketed tremendously. Everyone's after him. Happy to have him. I think that he could probably also play maybe some tackle for you, maybe be like a 3 technique potentially. I think that in a crazy world, maybe he could play a little bit of Leo, but I feel good with him. Hopefully we can hold on to him. But I'm going to tell you, man, it says that we only need 1. I would add 2. If we could add an Anthony Jones, he's a stud, 6'4", 6'5", about 255, 260 pounds. And yeah, I think he's probably going to be better suited to play strong side in, but he could also play Leo. He could grow into a tackle for you. Reminds me a lot of a Marion Dye. Okay, he's one of those types of players. Y'all know how I feel about Dye. So he's a guy that I would love for Tennessee to add because typically our strong side ends is more about stopping the run. They're going to do some pass rushing, obviously, but it's more about just being a versatile, maybe kind of like smaller, twitchier tackle, and having a guy with his type of pass rushing prowess that can also play out in space. That could just change the whole game for Tennessee's defense and make us a lot more versatile. So I'm looking forward to that. Happy to see that he will be up on an OV June the 20th. Again, that's the big one. But yeah, hopefully Tennessee can close out on Anthony Jones. Next, we have Leos, cornerbacks, and safeties. It's 3 positions that you can really never have too many players at. But starting off with Leos, I think Tennessee only needs 2. That's one spot where really Tennessee needs to be very selective with who we're bringing in, just because that room is already so deep. You don't need too many bodies. I mean, the room's almost getting to that point where we just have too many studs. It's stacked up back to back to back. So I would say only take like the top 1% because everybody wants to come and play for Coach Garner, for Coach Chop, for Coach Ayers. So Rodney Dunham and Tristan Gibbons, I would take both of them, either one of them, or, again, preferably both of them. But looking at Rodney Dunham, he's supposed to be coming up on June the 20th, but he did just set a date of April the 10th where he will be announcing the school that he's going to. Now, Tennessee is in his top, starting off or, earlier in this process. I feel like Tennessee was probably his top school, him being from Charlotte, James Pierce also being from Charlotte. He sees himself as James Pierce 2.0. But I don't know exactly what's going on with it here recently just because I haven't heard too much. But obviously, that would be huge if we could add both of those guys. Next, let's talk about cornerbacks. I think Tennessee needs 2. I love Jordan Evans because he's about 6'3", 180 pounds, something like that. Just a tall, long-rangey guy that's really versatile. He could play outside corner. He could play star. He could play safety. He can just do a whole lot of different things. I feel like Tennessee is in his top 2. I think it's us versus Georgia at this point. So that visit's going to be huge, but we got to stay on top of him just because you want to bring in as many really good cornerbacks, as you possibly can. And I would just say personally, it wouldn't really make sense for him to try to go to Georgia because Georgia doesn't do a good job with their cornerbacks. That's just, that's just the truth. Kirby Smart wants to give his cornerbacks a ton of help. If you want to be an NFL cornerback, you have to show that you can play some real man-to-man coverage without help over the top. But Kirby Smart's always going to give his cornerbacks as much help as he possibly can. So, hopefully Jordan Edmonds understands the, whole part of this, or, he understands everything that comes with it, and he will decide to pick our Tennessee Volunteers. So last on this slide right here, we have safeties. I think Tennessee needs 2, but, we could probably be okay with just getting 1. Honestly speaking, y'all, you could probably take 2 at every single position every year just because you never know what's going to happen. The transfer portal's crazy, but Tennessee has a lot of veterans playing at safety. So That room's going to be really young coming up here, and we do need to add some depth. But I love Joey O'Brien at 6'4", 200 pounds. He can also play a wide receiver, so that's some added versatility that you don't typically see. Another offense defense guy similar to like a Boo Carter. But either way, for me, I love the fact that Tennessee's targeting these taller, longer safeties. I just think that fits, playing especially free safety very well. They can cover a whole lot of grounds because of that length. So we'll see what happens here. It kind of feels like he is leaning maybe towards Notre Dame. At least that's what some of the insiders and stuff are saying. But it ain't over till it's over. And I know that he really does like Tennessee. All right, y'all, we're going to end it on the offensive line. And I want to point out a couple things here. Obviously, you can see it's split up between offensive tackle and interior offensive line. Interior offensive line is typically guards and centers. I think Tennessee would add one center in this class just to kind of back up Nick Moore moving forward. But also, some of the guys that are listed up under interior offensive line can play tackle. I don't know what Tennessee sees these guys as. So I just kind of kept it as what On Three had them listed as. So starting off with offensive tackle, I think Tennessee needs two. We already have one. And I think that he's a little bit of a project. It's probably going to take him like a couple years to really get acclimated to playing offensive tackle. Maybe even football period. I think he's kind of new to playing football. So he's got a really, really high ceiling just because he's huge. It's like 6'7", 330, 340 or something like that. But outside of that, again, I would just take whoever coach E sees fit, because I think he's doing a much better job. If you look at last season's class, all the offensive linemen that we brought in, he didn't miss, I don't think, on any of them. Some of the players weren't even offensive linemen, but he moved them to offensive line. So I think that he does have a better eye for offensive linemen than what we had first thought, like earlier, a couple of years ago, right? So I think that that's a really good look for Tennessee. But looking at interior offensive line, I think that Tennessee could add three here just because, we bring in a couple of transfer guards who could both go pro next season. We've got Sham. He could potentially go pro. I don't think that he would, but he could. Okay. We also have Aiden Bustle. He's a guy that will be eligible to go pro. I don't think that he will be ready quite yet. But I think that Tennessee wants to try to add three. And there's a lot of different bodies here. I like all these guys, every single one of them. Obviously, Brandon Anderson, he was committed to Tennessee, but then he kind of backed away from that. He still does have Tennessee in his top four, so I would take him. He's another one. He could play some tackle for you too, but I think he's more of a guard sort of a body. I really like Darius Gray. Obviously, he's the only 5-star up here, and he really likes Tennessee. But looking at guys like Leo, looking at Breck, both of those players have been mentioned with Tennessee throughout this entire process. We just got to kind of seal this deal. I think that we will end up with 3 guards in this class, and I think they're all going to be really, really good. All right, so looking at the 2026 rankings, you can see LSU's off to a really hot start. USC's always started off fast. Oregon's up there, A&M's up there, Ohio State, Clemson, Penn State, Auburn. We all know that Coach Freeze is going to do a really good job. And then we have our Tennessee Volunteers at 9, but we are in front of Texas, Miami, Notre Dame, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina. Look at Georgia, all the way down to 17. Don't nobody want to go play for them dolls no more. Maryland, Oklahoma, Illinois. So, Tennessee, I think we're doing a good job. We're off to a really good start, but we got to finish strong. This was a class that we felt like could maybe finish in the top 3. Can we still get there? Of course we can. Like with all the visitors that we have coming up, Tennessee can most definitely finish top 3. And this is just a look at the entire class. You can see we're 4th in the SEC. Doing a good job of going out and getting, obviously, quarterbacks. We do a good job of that every year. Wide receivers, we're off to a really fast start with this class. Tight ends, we're doing way better than we did a couple of years ago at targeting tight ends, closing out on tight ends early. We got an offensive tackle that we talked about. Always going to do a good job with our edge rushers, with our tackles, all of that. Like guys that play on the line, okay? Guys that play on the line on defense want to come and play at Tennessee for sure. Linebacker, you know what I'm saying? So we're pretty much doing what we have done. If there's anything that I feel like Tennessee needs to do a better job of, it's cornerbacks. I want to see some cornerbacks here really soon. Safeties, want to see that too. But I think that we're targeting them more. I think that we're targeting more of them, and we're going after, it feels like higher caliber players. At least we're in the mix for some higher caliber players. So I love seeing that. But yeah, I feel good about the start that Tennessee's off to. I do feel like we could still maybe finish in that top 3, but we got to start to get high over spring. I would expect that Tennessee gets 1, maybe 2 people to commit. But over the summer, that's when we'll know for sure, or we'll have a better idea of how the class is going to finish up. Now, it's all going to be subject to change. Now that Tennessee's going after, some of these, higher caliber players, it's going to be a race to the finish line. Even even if they choose Tennessee early on, we got to hold on to them throughout the entire process, and it's the same for everybody else. So something else, last thing that I just kind of want to point out there, and I'm just going to scroll through this so that y'all can see more of the more of these rankings. But I did see Big Jim Haslam, okay, with our basketball team. So that lets me know that he's still involved with Tennessee. I would have to anticipate that puts us in a really good spot as far as NIL goes. I don't know how much money he's going to give, but he can give a whole lot. I'm not trying to count his pockets, but we all know that's big for Tennessee. So while I had felt like a couple of years ago he wasn't as close to Tennessee's program, now it feels like whatever the issue was, maybe that's been mended. And if that's the case, Tennessee's in a great spot. We should be able to, hopefully we can start to kind of close out on more and more of these players. But that's it for my thoughts. Please share yours with me down in the comment section. And as always, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.